And I want to talk about the medical examiner again, and also the FBI agent there in El Paso, Jesus Eddie. He's known as Eddie Nieto Jr. So, just a little bit, see if I can get on, make sure everything's working okay. Oh yeah, I should play Glendon Oakley Jr. Um, on day two. I have to say, that has been so distressing and so sad. So to listen to Glendon Oakley Jr. on day two, less than 24 hours after the mass shooting there in El Paso on August 3rd, 2019. And what had, I've been just thinking about him so much. Rest in peace. And sang a lot of prayers for him, sang a lot of prayers for his family. It has been really so terrible. So let's see if I'm on. It says I'm on. And the reason is because, God puts things in your life, and his hand has been all over this case since from when I was born. And that I know that sounds strange, but people that know this case and know um, our lives and know my life, being born at White Sands, going to school in El Paso, my dad being ADA. Um, and I know that's not a coincidence totally because of Richard talking with my dad, talking to Opie. We called him Opie. Um, and my dad being ADA and Richard deciding to go ADA, Air Defense Artillery. Um, but all the other things that it's hard for me to describe to people that has prepared um, to fight this battle against evil, against corruption, against the collusion, against uh, this group of people that have for decades put together their business there in El Paso criminally. Criminally. Their business is crime, and they make a lot of money doing it. And for us to um, understand that, for us to withstand the harassment, the threats, the vile and vulgar comments, the stealing of our identity, the stealing of our child's identity, and also to look at what happened to Glendon Oakley Jr. and know that his identity right now, like Richard's, is still stolen, still being used, and our military leadership betraying us to such degrees. I mean, just absolutely betraying us um, by allowing the smearing of our soldiers. Absolutely, he was smeared. Um, Glendon Oakley Jr., absolutely a hero. There is no doubt in my mind. And to allow him to be harassed like he was harassed and to be smeared and his character, his name to be smeared like this, it is so disgusting on the part of our leadership in the military. It is so sad. I mean, you just weep. You just weep because when, for me, seeing that video of him breaking up and wanting to cry, and having to control himself. Just this young man with his whole life, young, beautiful man with his whole life in front of him. Um, oh my gosh, it's just it's so awful what they did to him, because I know that's what they did to Richard. It, this, and what do I mean by that? That this is their standard operating procedure of their criminal business plan, where they are extorting from the American people um, monies. And I was going to put it up. Uh, there's a report. Maybe I should look for it. I meant to do that. Janet Mello, Yamanaka, I think that's her name, embezzled $100 million from the army for years, spending it on all kinds of things. And this is and I know that there is such crime going on Fort Bliss and in El Paso, because of all the evidence that we have collected. And this is why you see on Fort Bliss the betrayal of our leadership, okay? Because they've sold their soul for the bowl of porridge. They don't want the higher gift that's worth way more than gold and silver and all of that. They they've sold their soul, and so that's why they can betray, and they absolutely have betrayed Glenn Oakley and so many more, and allowed them to be just put underfoot, a doormat, to wipe their feet on, smearing them, so that they can hide their criminal activities, their business, their criminal business. It's a criminal enterprise. And they did that with so many, and Richard was one of them. There's no doubt in my mind. And why do I say that? Because, Fort Bliss is right there on the border. El Paso is right there on the border, okay? And it's a very sensitive area because it is right there on the border. And it is an ideal place for trafficking, an ideal place for smuggling, and it is an ideal place for criminal activity. Okay, this is not anything new, not any thinking person would deny. Okay, because it's on the border. Border cities are like that. That's why Camp Pendleton has similar problems than Fort Bliss. And, absolutely, it's all through history. Has nothing to do with, like or dislike or whatever. It has to do with it's on the border of two countries. Okay, it's on the border of two countries, and that means there's two separate laws, right? And when you have these two separate laws, you have two separate tax codes. You have two different cultures. It's so, when you have crimes, if you're in Mexico, you're going to have a different set of laws than for the same crime than if you're in Texas in the United States. Uh, the procedures are different. The whole set of laws are going to be different, and so you have to take extra care all along the borders of countries. All along, there has to be extra care, extra provision. And the HRC, you have to have more care against corruption, against these criminal cabals forming. So when you look at the medical examiner of El Paso, the chief medical examiner of El Paso, and we have it confirmed that Dr. Mario A. Rascon Ortiz is, this is what's been reported to us now, that he is not an American citizen. Okay? Now, this is really troubling because his job is handling the remains and making judgments on the remains, okay, in so many criminal cases. His job is so important in criminal cases. I mean, anyone that's watched NCIS or NCIC or whatever, these shows, the medical examiner is key to so many cases. And for him not to be an American citizen is very troubling because his job is like a judge, right? He needs to be impartial. He needs to look at the evidence, look at the forensics, and make his determinations, which is his judgments. And that's why medical examiners can issue subpoenas and warrants to judge properly, have all of the information that he absolutely or she absolutely needs, so they can make the determination properly. And that is so important in all of these law cases, right? All of this law enforcement cases. The medical examiner is so important. And Mario A. Raskin Ortiz was in charge of all of the remains of August 3rd, for example, 2019. And his name came up because of intelligence giving us these autopsies information, and his name was on it, okay? And so for Richard. And I don't know if he was in charge of Glendon Oakley's remains. And one of the main things is to respect the remains, right? This is so important for the remains to be respected. Just like, this is why I feel like the leadership has betrayed us so in such a disgusting way, because they should protect the name, the character, the name of their soldiers. And you should never let them be smeared like that. Here they are murdered, and they're being smeared. They can't even speak up for themselves, and they're being smeared. And even when they're alive, to be smeared like that. And then they say, oh, we have a program for PTSD, or we have a program for suicide, and they're failed programs. Well, no wonder they're failed programs. Look at this leadership to allow this kind of abuse of the soldiers' names, right? It's horrendous. Unjustly. All right. So, and the real criminals that justice needs to arrest them, like Leilani Hart, absolutely. Uh, this goes to Nieto now, right? FBI agent in charge there for El Paso, you know, absolutely has jurisdiction over um, uh, murder cases and all kinds of crime that even happens on Fort Bliss. So the FBI office there in El Paso has to work very closely with dirty agent Marlon Soto. Why is he allowed to be a dirty agent? Very clearly you can see that he was allowed to be a dirty agent, and that Tavita Nusa was allowed to be a dirty agent. And now is FBI um, agent Nieto allowed to be a dirty agent too? To stay there for over 20 years and be a dirty agent? Because he's been there, his tenure is so long. Why did they even do that? To allow him to become a dirty agent, to be a dirty agent? Maybe they want him to be a dirty agent. Whoever is in HRC that is connecting these people, because then he lived on Fort Bliss. He lived on Fort Bliss. And so, what problems do we have uh, with with Nieto, the FBI agent Nieto? And I put it out there today. I have a little. Let me get a Kleenex, because talking about Glendon Oakley, I always, how can you not weep when you see that beautiful man, that beautiful soldier, be treated the way he was treated? And I'll talk about this a little bit. Less than 24 hours after a mass shooting. Now, this is where, I grew up in El Paso, I grew up in Germany, and I grew up in Temple, Texas, which is very close to, I met my husband when he was stationed at Fort Hood, Fort Cavazos, right? We were married on Fort Hood. Um, we were then left, and during Desert Shield and Desert Storm, my sister lived in Killeen. Okay, she worked. Uh, she worked there in the lab, in the medical lab. Um, at it wasn't William Beaumont. I mean, Darnell. It wasn't Darnell. I don't think, was it Darnell? No, I think it was a different hospital. I have to ask her, but I know she worked in the lab, and she had 3 children at the time, and we just had 1 child at the time, and I went and stayed with her. And during that time, and I was watching the children, helping. She was moving on to post, and I was helping her move on to post, on to Fort Hood, and hanging washout on the wash lines there. The neighbors were like, "Oh, is your dryer broken?" I'm like, "No, I'm just hanging washout." Um, they have really, anyway. That's a different story. But I'm on post helping my sister out. She's working in the lab, and the hospital's going to come to me. Anyway, I'll ask her. But the Luby shooting happened. The Luby mass shooting. Horrible. Horrible. And there's so much I can say about it, but it would take so long. But the point is Susan called me, and of course, things were so chaotic. And that was a smaller mass shooting than what happened on August 3rd, 2019. But it was so chaotic because, they had to treat these injured individuals. And it went on, and it was just the lab work, the the hospitals. I think some were sent even to Scott and White. Uh, just which is a medical center there in Temple. Yeah, there was just so much chaos as far as trying to organize in order to help these victims, right? And that was um, a smaller mass shooting. So what I'm trying to say is that experience, when I was talking about God's hand is all over this, that experience of, you know, supporting my sister when she had to work long hours and everything, um, during the Luby's mass shooting, which was, I have to look up the year, because it was during Desert Shield and Desert Storm, but gave gave us the insight that Glendon Oakley Jr. being harassed less than 24 hours later after a huge mass shooting, 23 dead and many injured. The just the medical care that had to go into that, and then the law enforcement, and then the investigative, and the political, and it's so chaotic, but yet a group of demons who I don't know who hired them, because I absolutely know that they were working for somebody, decided that they had to put forth a narrative of a lone shooter, um, and had to bring the character of Glendon Oakley down quick, within minutes, within hours. And that's why they acted so quickly. And less than 24 hours later, he's up there and he is all protecting himself. He is, breaking up near tears, not because of the mass shooting, but because of the harassment and the smear and the twisting of his words and what he had done already occurring after, less, just minutes and hours after a mass shooting. Now, y'all, that does not make sense unless it was all planned out, unless they were there already prepared to formulate this stupid, absolutely insane and stupid idea that Patrick Crucius, who is autistic, can organize and carry out a mass shooting of that size by himself as a lone shooter. That is the stupidest thing. When you take an hour out and look at this case, they're just playing us for fools, and then telling the governor, telling the Texas people that they need millions and millions of dollars to prosecute this killer, who, the victim's family say, I want you to go to hell and prosecute him so that he can be brought to the death chamber, right? That they want the death penalty for him. And then yet they don't do it. But yet, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. He's such a murderer, lone wolf murderer, and we're going to give him the death penalty. And then they don't do it. And then they botch the case. They have Jaime Esparza, the DA at the time, walking through the dead bodies. Tell me about that. They have the key witness to what really happened being smeared. being harassed. And lots of other very questionable. Um, you know, uh, this is this is not law enforcement. This is not investigative work. This is a criminal syndicate organizing some kind of deadly day for some kind of some uh, for money, for power, for what? For what? This is what really needs to be investigated. And who is who connected to who is who that's connected to who is who. But no, in less than one day or even a couple days, they're saying, oh, this is a lone wolf. How do you know who is Patrick Crucius connected to? And what was really going on in the mall? And why were M4s in the hands of mall cops? Lots of them. And why were there so many witnesses hearing shots all over the place and seeing shooters? But no, real quick, someone is controlling something, and it is big, y'all, because what they have and the El Paso police chief, he's no longer with us either. They have control over all these people. Why do they have control over all these people? Are they killing all these people? Are they threatening all these people? Do they have blackmail information on all of these people? Do they pay all these people off? I don't know. All I know is something really stinks to high heaven, and it is ruining us. It is ruining us. And it's just grabbing hold, and it's twisting us down into the depths of a very, very evil place where there's crying and gnashing of teeth and weeping. And that's why we're weeping. And, I don't know. I just can't go along with it. I couldn't go along with the COVID. Stupid germ theory. I mean, if germs were that dangerous, can you imagine? I have 9 grandkids, sharing each other's lollipop or whatever. Oh, let me have your drink. Oh, yeah. No way. No way. We would all be dead. It's just, and now they want us to agree with this stupid narrative that makes no sense, no logic, no proper investigation, tampering with the crime scene, meddling, tampering with witnesses, harassing witnesses. Now we have the key witness that was found dead in the barracks in April of 2020, and we don't even have a cause of death. And we have a medical examiner in charge of all these deaths that doesn't even have, reported to us, an American citizenship, which means, which laws does he follow? Who is he loyal to? Who is he loyal to? And what is he doing? And we're paying him way over $400,000 a year because it is like so important to be a chief medical examiner, but we don't think it's important enough to require that he would have to be an American citizen. That, to me, that is so insane. And it is so, suicidal. for our society, for our country. And not just for our country, but whatever happens, whatever happens in the United States, it's so close to Mexico that, it's, the crime crosses the border both ways. And, if you believe in sanctification, which I believe in sanctification, that means if you're law abiding and you try to be law abiding, you try to hit that mark all the time, try to be honest person, try to have those 7 virtues that God tries to teach us, and try to hit that mark, that rubs off. And if we're a country of virtues that's trying to hit that mark, it rubs off on other countries too. And we bring, make the world a better place than we found it. Make the world a better place than we found it. This is the power of sanctification. The power of trying to make the world a better place. It's the Medal of Honor ethos. That's what that is, a Medal of Honor ethos. It's esprit de corps. That's what that is. My dad kept saying, there's no esprit de corps. There's no esprit de corps. And I get it now. Thank you, Dad. I get it. If there's no esprit de corps, there's no sanctification. There's no leadership trying to be virtuous, trying to be law-abiding, trying to own up to their duties, and that they have to have their soldiers 6. They have to have their service members 6. And that goes also for in the FBI. And now let's talk about Jesus Eddie Nieto Jr. He's been up to no good as far as our case has gone. And if it's our case, it's kind of like a Marlon Soto, dirty agent Marlon Soto in the Fort Bliss CID. How many cases has he allowed to go without justice in order to protect the criminals? A criminal cabal, a money-hungry, power-hungry cabal, and created a society that, the crime goes up, the need for prostitution goes up, or you have the sexual trafficking, the forced prostitution, the 14-year-old girl living on Fort Bliss in the barracks being prostituted out to the soldiers, and that's multiple times a night, okay? And we learned that from The Sound of Freedom, this human trafficking. And then you got this sex cult developing, so that now you need pedophilia. Now their bellies are never full. The darkness is like a whirlpool that pulls you down into ever more disgusting, degrading activity and crime, right? And so they get into this pedophilia, and then they get it, okay, then we have to sell it now, so we have to make child porn, which is child torture. And where does that lead? Because it's going to get deeper and darker and more degenerate. And think about that word, degenerate. Genesis, that means to make, to create. Degenerate is to destroy. These people are destroying life, destroying the land, destroying relationships. when you're not law abiding, when you have no esprit de corps, when you have no sanctifying power, making the world a better place, pick up your trash, you know, do something helpful for a person. That's why I always loved McGuffey's, because McGuffey's theme is Mary helped the old blind man. When you don't have this, then you're degenerating your society, your families, your businesses. And when you are a head FBI, people trust you. When you're in a uniform, people because they think that you are there because we pay them to be there. We pay them to be there to have a esprit de corps, to have a sanctifying power, to be law abiding, to make the world a better place. And that's why we honor the uniform. We honor those that are in uniform. We thank those that are in uniform. Because we think they're going to generate freedom, generate peace, generate those virtues, not be degenerate. And what we've discovered is, in our investigation, is that Nieto, the lead FBI agent there for El Paso, is up to no good. Is up to no good. And he's been there a long time. And so many cases, they all need to be scrutinized. So we've got John Briggs, the assistant DA in charge of murders, there for a long time, up to no good. We have proven, confirmed, dirty agent Marlon Soto in the CID at Fort Bliss, up to no good. We have proven, documented, and this doesn't make me happy to say this stuff, but DES Thomas Kane, up to no good, and he's in charge of the security of Fort Bliss. We have Ann Ogle, up to no good, 85,000 missing children. Missing children. We have Park University, up to no good. Confirmed, up to no good. We have the media, El Paso Matters, Bob Moore, up to no good. And all of this with conflict of interest. So many conflicts of interest. I would have to be live streaming 24 hours a day. Every day. That is how. And so I hope that you trust Team Fine Richard Halliday. And I know, how can you trust? Because we're going to at least be trying to hit that bullseye when it comes to being authentic, being truthful, being transparent. And I'm telling you right now, we've got Veronica Escobar, up to no good. The AG, Jaime Esparza, walking through the dead bodies with... Why did he do that? and even as a DA. And Bill Hicks, up to no good. And Tavita Nusa, up to no good. And James Hart, there at the VA with access. We were told we were denied access to our son's health record. Why? Because James Hart has access to our son's medical record. And he's up to no good. How do I know he's up to no good? Because Leilani Hart put in a criminal complaint that was so bad, so many felony crimes in there, and notarized it, and was not arrested by Nieto. Not arrested. Why? Because she must have some proof that there was child pornography, that there was pedophilia, that there was incest, that there were illegal weapons, that there were threats with the weapons, that there was a raped 7-year-old in her master bedroom by multiple members of her household, and more. And more. Child abuse, child torture. But yet, Nieto did not arrest Leilani Hart. Why? Because he claimed that it was a false report. Now, why was that? Why did they do that? Because they did not want to arrest James Courtney Hart and Dallas Hart and most likely Texas Hart. They were, even the media treated Texas Hart as a sweetheart. So, let me explain this. So, here they are. Nobody's being arrested. I don't understand that. Or I understand it as covering up because this is an inner fight of a criminal cabal and they have dirty laundry on each other. And so this is what you get. The continuation of child porn, of the incest, of children being raped, tortured, the continuation of purchasing weapons illegally. You get the continuation because Nieto is up to no good. He's been there too long. And why does that matter to us? Because Leilani Hart was reported to the FBI for having unauthorized access to files. Our son's file, which we don't have access to. Right? We didn't have access. She had access. And we even told Marlon Soto in front of 15 plus agencies and the generals there that there were people that had information that they must be in the CID because they had information that was not even out there that we didn't even have. And the officer of the court made an FBI complaint, a CID complaint, a complaint to the general, complaint to who knows, loads of complaints about this tampering of Richard's file, video missing, reports of Tavita with doing bodily harm. And yet, there's no mention of any kind of investigation into those leads, into that intelligence. Nieto is up to no good. And then, before that, on October 26, 2020, we get a call. Ma'am, come quick, come quick. This FBI agent, this man that came in said he was with the FBI. And we've decided now to call him FBI man, to say he's an FBI agent, because the law is very clear. He has identified himself as an FBI agent with intel of the FBI finding our son's body, his remains, in Mexico. Now, Nadal Baim did not say he's a custodian for the FBI building. He said he's FBI and he has the intel to say that the FBI was looking for our son's remains in Mexico and they found him. They found his remains, and it is to be kept a secret. It is to be kept a secret. That was his communication to the cashier. And we went there less than an hour after Nadal Baim left, and we received the CCTV footage. We spoke to the employees of the Dollar General. We spoke to the cashier while she was working and received her video testimony. We gave that to the FBI, entrusting that CCTV footage and the video testimony of the cashier to the FBI, who we pay so that we can entrust this sensitive information to do the right thing. We don't even believe that they did an investigation. And we told them that the State Department confirmed that FBI agents were in Mexico. See, this is what is so scary. And this is where this man, Jaime Corona, comes in. Because, our FBI is looking in Mexico for the remains of a soldier, of an American soldier. But the State Department told us, confirmed, that the FBI agents were in Mexico searching for Richard's remains. Where is the official report to that investigation that FBI agent Jesus Eddie Nieto Jr. should have done right away. But you know what we were told when we kept asking? He's just some crazy guy. He's just some guy watching your Facebook. And who's the one that told us that we had entrusted the investigation? We, meaning the American people, entrusted the investigation of a missing soldier to? Dirty Agent Marlon Soto. Dirty Agent Marlon Soto had been entrusted by the American people to investigate our missing son's case. Also, Dirty Agent Marlon Soto was entrusted into investigating the death of Oakley Jr. Of Glendon Oakley Jr. And Marlon Soto picks degeneration. He picks a degenerate. He picks the criminals. Because we absolutely know that he picked the criminals. Because he told me to our face that Nadal Baim was just some, because we didn't know Nadal Baim's name. We didn't know his connections. We still don't know his full connections. But he told us to our face he's just some guy. The same thing with Belen. They turned Belen, who is an unreliable source. She's so compromised. She's an unreliable source. And they used her as a witness? They used Danae as a witness? Danae is so compromised. These are unreliable sources, criminals. They have long criminal histories. They're connected to 3905 Bliss Avenue. The same people that are connected to the August 3rd, 2019 mass shooting. Who's connected to our son's case? It's all intertwined. So Nieto failed to arrest Leilani Hart. And he also failed to investigate the affair, the extramarital affair between CID agent Tavita Nusa and Leilani Hart. The failures of even letting Nadal Baim, an agent of the FBI, to reveal intelligence. That's also a failure of Nieto. Thank God Nadal Baim did. But we wouldn't have had to worry about that if Nieto had done his duty, had done what we pay him to do. And we would absolutely have a different life right now. We would have our son's remains. We would have had our goodbyes. We would have had him buried. He would have his good name. We would have the criminals on death row ready to get the shot, the injection that they deserve. And I'm sorry for being harsh like that, but absolutely what they did to Richard, what they've done to so many, they, in my estimation, and I think many others, the death penalty needs to be on the table. The lethal injection needs to be on the table. And we have been informed, Team Find Richard Halliday, that absolutely thank God that this is in Texas, because the judge that they will go in front of, because it's happening, it's going to happen, is not against the lethal injection for cases such as this. The death penalty is on the table. It is on the table. And, the connections, they call it conflicts of interest. And what it is, it's really they're more loyal to the degeneration, the criminal cabal, the criminal enterprise, than they are to the very people of this country that pay them to have esprit de corps, that pay them to have a sanctifying effect, that pay them to bring us justice, to bring us proper investigations, to identify crime and criminals and document it so it can be prosecuted, so we can have a more beautiful, a country that is more perfect, right? More perfect. And that word perfect, I'm a school teacher, so I know these things. When you say more perfect in the Constitution, it means more mature, growing, generating, producing, living, bearing fruit, a more perfect nation. That's what that means. But we have an FBI head that is up to no good, and CID up to no good, and representatives like Veronica Escobar. Where is she? Huh? Where is she? Up to no good. And DA and the attorney, the assistant district attorney that's in charge of all murder cases, up to no good. And the AG, up to no good. And the command of Fort Bliss, up to no good. We had Leilani Hart bragging that she controlled CID on Fort Bliss. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think she was lying. She was rolling in the hay, and it wasn't just with Tavita Nusa, because our witness just said that her husband confirmed that Leilani Hart was having an affair with David Poche, who also is, guilty, seemingly, apparently. We have a lot of proof of obstructing the justice in our son's case. And now we have confirmed from a judge that the death penalty is on the table. Because whoever is involved in this forced disappearance, the stealing of his identity, the smearing of his name and character, the murder, the covering up of his complaints, the dismemberment of his body, the dishonoring of remains. That's where the medical examiner comes into big play. And the continued cover up of this, the death, that lethal injection needs to be on the table in multiple amounts. Because so many people have been hurt. And we're way over 3 years. And that was all unnecessary. Because Nieto, if he didn't have the conflicts of interest with Kachurga, with the media, conflicts of interest with others, which we will release also, he could have made the world a better place. But he chose not to. His loyalty is not with the land and the people. His loyalty is not with our service members. His loyalty is not with our country. It's with something else. Someone else, something else. Some, I don't know, foreign ideology. But it's not to make this world a better place. It's not to have esprit de corps or a sanctifying power. So those are my thoughts for today after thinking about our whistleblower being harassed when it comes to the leaks in our son's case and our son's file being leaked, when the whistleblower, the cashier of the FBI agent that walks into the Dollar General that says the FBI has found the remains of our son in Mexico, and the Department of State confirming that the FBI were there looking for the remains of our son, and then this name that has snuck through also as a confirming effect, Jaime Corona, that this is indeed true, and with the DES, Thomas Kane saying Richard's remains, Richard was a good meal for the coyotes. And for Leilani Hart saying Richard was a code red. And the whistleblower on August 3rd, 2019 saying there were shots in the mall and M4s in the hands of mall cops. Yeah. This is And then we get 700 pages of garbage, absolute primary work, garbage for our millions of dollars that they have spent to cover this up. And Bugado and Nieto and Nadal Baim and Soto and Tavita Nusa and the Hearts, they can continue being up to no good, being degenerate. Thank you, Yvette. I'm really trying to follow this, but I am not sure what this has to do with finding your son. How does this even relate? I pray you find answers. Well, because the medical examiner is because August 3rd, 2019, the Walmart mass shooting is connected to 3905 Bliss Avenue, to Danae Katzen, who's part of Richard's case, to Belen Rocha, who's part of Richard's case, to others that are part of the Richard's case, and also the mass shooting that happened on that day, on August 3rd, 2019. Richard was a CID intern. Richard wanted to be CID. Who's CID? Dirty Agent Marlon Soto. Who's CID? Tavita Nusa. Who controls the CID office? Leilani Hart. Leilani Hart. Okay? Richard is his platoon leader. Leilani Hart's son, Dallas Hart, is Richard's platoon leader. And he's up to no good. Leilani Hart is saying that he's up to incest, that he is up to child pornography, which is child torture, that he is up to sexually assaulting a 7-year-old, a son of an active duty soldier there on Fort Bliss, in her master bedroom. Richard makes child protective service complaints. Richard makes complaints that cause the IG to be all over the barracks because of Halliday. Richard's identity is stolen. Leilani Hart is using stolen identity. This people that harass us steal identity. Glendon Oakley Jr., his identity is stolen. Richard's is still being used, stolen. They have the history of stolen identity, Leilani Hart. We have a witness that says Dallas Hart was Richard's platoon leader. We have a witness that says Dallas Hart is homosexual. Why does that matter? Because Leilani Hart is saying there's incest, and that is with father and brother. This is why all of this has to do, then we get these autopsy reports with Ortiz's name on it, and Ortiz is not an American citizen. And then we make all these complaints. We make these complaints to the FBI, and the FBI fails to do anything, fails to do their job. And I have to apologize for getting, a little anxious there. But 3 years. This is all connected. They are all connected. There's so many conflicts of interest. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you've had to live in that you might have profited off of that, or you might have been harmed by that, and you're in on that, and you've kept it a secret on that, or whatever, if you're listening and that is the case. They killed my son. Glendon Oakley Jr. is dead. 23 years old. Where are people's hearts? Are they all of stone? Does anybody have a heart of flesh left? Children, 85,000 missing children under the protection of millions and millions of dollars that we give to our military, to our law enforcement, and 85,000 are missing, unaccounted for. They don't even have a record of them, and they're bringing more and more over. And what's going to happen? We have already records, people leaking, telling us the numbers for 2023 are horrendous. Where are people's hearts? Are they all of stone? Do they not see the future? Do they not see how this is going to hurt us? Is a fancy car what you want? Is a fancy house what you want? Is new shoes what you want, or jewelry? Is it worth ruining an entire country? Not our entire country, multiple countries. And destroying the land on it, because absolutely the land suffers. The people suffer, the land suffers. For what? For what? For more people to be harassed with vile, vulgar, you wouldn't believe the sex cult. They are so vile and vulgar. And I think they've been sexually abused since they were children. To be that vile and vulgar, they had to be groomed. They had to be sexually assaulted as children. I really believe that. So we want more vile and vulgar? We want that to continue? There's too much beauty out there, y'all. There's too much beauty. There's too many wonderful things to do. We have too much potentiality. And I've been made fun of because I talk about potentiality, meaning, people are so creative. They can do so many great things. And this criminal cabal is taking away those opportunities from us. Their sex cult is taking away those opportunities. They rather torture children sexually? Who knows where and what happened to these 85,000? What, for a contract? For an aeronautical or, this balloon contract, or for certain planes a contract? That's why they are willing to destroy a people and a land and multiple countries. Let's bomb them. Don't forget, in order to have all these contracts, we have to go to war and bomb people and kill people and everything. For what? And you think it's, I don't buy the white supremacy stuff from Patrick Crucius. Sorry. I don't buy that narrative. There's nothing corroborating to support it. Oh, he wrote a manifesto. Really? Let's investigate that, huh? Let's really investigate that. I want to look. Yvonne Rosales' signature is not even her own. There's all these discrepancies with her signature when she was brought out, put down, whatever, removed. I mean, you got fraud everywhere. So I think we need to scrutinize everywhere. And you can scrutinize. That's why, come on, every day you can scrutinize what I say. But there is no doubt that there is weapon smuggling, that there is a marketplace for illegal drugs, that there is narcotics trafficking, that there's human trafficking, that there's 85,000 unaccounted for minors, and that Richard has been murdered. And that the medical examiner is not even an American citizen. And that Agent Nieto did not do his job. He chose something else. And the same thing with the command. The same thing with Bernabe, with Donna Martin, with Eisenhower. And it's so bad, and they've done so much harm that it warrants the death penalty. A warrant on every level. It warrants the death penalty. And I'm sure, Yvette, you have not profited off of anything. And I know you're trying to understand the live streams. And this is convoluted. It has many facets. It has taken us over 3 years to understand part of it. Every day it's breaking news. I have breaking news today. And I'm trying to think about it before I release the information. But it's more conflicts of interest with more connections between peoples. And I will tell you the peoples. It is FBI agent Nieto with Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado. Now, when you're in my position and you've been in meetings and they tell you, oh, that Nadal Baim, who is the father-in-law of Bradford Bugado, is nobody. He's nobody. Don't worry about him. And you had to spend hours and hours and hours investigating as a family to try to find out who this man was in a mask, going into the Dollar General and saying to the cashier that your son was found dead in Mexico by the FBI. And all along, they knew who he was. All along, they knew he was not just some guy. That he was the father-in-law of Bradford Bugado. And that there's a conflict of interest between Bradford Bugado and Agent Nieto, FBI Agent Nieto. And FBI Agent Nieto has an employee called Nadal Baim, another agent. And this is after learning just a couple days ago that Nieto has a conflict of interest with Angela Kachurga, who has intentionally with malice obstructed justice in your son's case. Now, I don't, I think that we have stayed pretty calm with all of that information. Even though my voice might get a little quick and it might raise a little bit, We have stayed very calm and peaceful and started writing letters and started writing letters and asking and praying that the death penalty would be considered in this case. The bullet list in those 700 pages is of discrepancies that are evidence to get the death penalty for these absolute criminals. Absolute criminals. Yeah. Well, just keep listening, Yvette, and you will understand. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Grace, for your love and for your prayers. And, and keep trying to understand. It has been a very long process for us. It has been a very difficult process for us. Um, I cannot even tell you. I can't even tell you how. Uh, it's just been absolutely horrible. And, by God's grace, we have stood this long. Don't forget, we have been, oh man, it's just by God's grace. And, the stars in their course fought against Sisera. Okay? And what that means is that you cannot stop the truth from coming out. You cannot stop justice. You cannot do it. It's going to come out. And, I'm just praying I can see it for myself. So, for my beautiful son, and we have really debunked the smears. They have no corroborating evidence, which is evidence for us to use, because we already started. We have 3 now. Team Fire Richard Halliday does the intent, notices of intent to sue. So this is very important, and we want to make it very clear that we have just been handed so much evidence of wrongdoing and foul play. And we're going through it very carefully and putting it all together. And we're finding the information, like with Nieto, he is absolutely up to no good. And so this has brought new information of conflicts of interest with Angela Kachurga, with Bradford Bugado, and when we, this is moving so fast that we need a little time to think it all through before we release all the details. So, because this is big, this is the FBI guy there in El Paso that has been there over 20 years. And before then, even too, because he lived on Fort Bliss. Okay? He's a veteran. He's a veteran up to no good. How does that happen? And that's confirmed that he's up to no good. That's confirmed. And it's confirmed that he's a veteran. So, thank you so much, everyone. Um, God bless you for coming on this long, and just pray and share. Share and pray. Thank you so much, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing.